It's the subject everyone's talking about. No, they really are. From the poorest to the richest in the land, one of the conversations that's going on is about cryptocurrency. The reason is all too obvious. It's that governments are, through this pandemic, creating vast amounts of funny money, debasing currencies, and people are scared about what this means for their money, their investments, where are we going? So crypto is being talked about, and you start to see now, even in the national newspapers, reports of what Bitcoin or one of the other cryptocurrencies did on the exchanges yesterday. Now, this week's Fortune and Freedom has been very much Crypto Week. We've put some written articles out to you. Do not, if you don't understand this, pretend to anybody, particularly yourself, that you do. This is a big subject to get your minds around. It takes time. I must admit, I've been a bit lazy on it, but I thought, well, I've got to really educate myself. So I got hold of a copy of this, Crypto Revolution, published by South Bank, and I read it. And I've been studying and talking about crypto a lot more in the last few months. I cannot, just because I've read this book, just because I started to study it, I can't sit here and tell you that I'm an expert. There is a lot to learn, but is it important? Actually, I think it could be crucially important that you get your minds around crypto and what it means. Already, fortunes have been made and lost on this. Now, rather than me tell you about crypto, we asked you to submit your questions on this, which you've done in droves, and we've picked out the common denominators amongst them. And I'm very pleased to say I'm joined by the author of Crypto Revolution, Sam Volkering. Sam, thank you. Tell me, where did your crypto journey start?
Sure. So for me, I got into crypto about a decade ago now. As we said off air, I'm a bit of a nerd at heart, and so I actually came across it just in some internet forums, believe it or not. And it sparked something in me. So my background in education's in finance and economics. And then I'd get online and I see that there's this digital currency that can be mined. And I think to myself, well, hang on, this is the money tree that mum and dad said never existed, but it exists here, and it had tangible value. And so I just got more interested in it back then and started to understand what Bitcoin was, how it worked, how to get it, what you could do with it. And then for the last decade, how the whole ecosystem has expanded, not just Bitcoin, but the whole cryptocurrency ecosystem. So it's been a decade-long, so far, journey of understanding and discovery and research for me.
Have you made money out of this?
I have, yeah. I've made some money out of it.
Okay.
It's one of those things that there's a big wealth opportunity here, and I think that's what I want people to understand, is that there's a bigger picture taking place, a bigger story with all of this. It's not just about the money, and we'll delve into that with some of these questions, I'm sure.
Well, I tell you what we'll do. Before we get into the questions, let's just do one or two real basics, all right, for those that are watching this perhaps for the first time and don't know anything about it at all. What is cryptocurrency?
Right, so a cryptocurrency in its very basic, explanation is a digital piece of code that represents a unit of exchange that can be exchanged between people online. So it's effectively online money, or I like to call Bitcoin new online money. That's what people should really be thinking about ones like Bitcoin as. But as you start to go through the wider cryptocurrency ecosystem, things expand from there. So some cryptocurrencies are looking to build out what you would consider to be the internet, so another connected network where we can exchange data, we can exchange information, not just cryptocurrencies.
You talk about Ethereum, Ether,
yes,
in this book as being something much more than a means of exchange.
Yeah, it's almost like, the premise behind Ethereum is very much about being the world's computer. There are issues we have with the internet and very centralized organizations having great amounts of control over data. And Ethereum is in a sense looking to build out a new kind of internet, Internet 2.0, if you will.
Okay.
And that forms part of it. So there's a lot of different facets to cryptocurrency. And to be honest with you, I think the term cryptocurrency is the wrong term to use, because it gives people that sort of pigeonhole view of currency. But it's more than that, and that's why I think crypto assets is probably a more apt description for some of these things.
And when people hear the word mine, they sort of blank over. How do you mine?
You mine with a computer. It's pretty much that simple. I say it's simple, but it's not that simple. I mean, when I first got started in it, as I said, having a bit of a tech background as well, I looked to build a custom PC with a friend so that we could mine Bitcoin. And then a couple of years back from that, I bought what's called an ASIC, a very specific computer that does the specific job of mining Bitcoin.
If I'm watching this video and I am very concerned about the way government, companies, individuals are racking up debt, concerned there could be some sort of big economic reset coming down the road, and goodness me, we had the warnings from Davos last year. Once every 20, 30 years, extraordinary things do happen. And I think to myself, well, I've read Sam's book. I've got some idea of what this is about. I want to, with 3% or 5% of my savings, put something into this just in case it does go to the moon. But I'm not technical. I've got a computer at home, I can do email, but I'm not technical. Who do I go to? I mean, how do I say I want to buy Bitcoin or I want to buy a bit of Ether, but I'm not capable of doing it myself. Where do I go?
Yeah, so the great thing is that over the last decade, this has become way more easier than it used to be. So it's as simple as, how if you're going on a holiday and you need to get US dollars or something like that, you can go to a currency exchange and you can buy currency. You can do that
and get
very
ripped
similar.
off.
You get ripped off with them, yes, you do. And there's some, unfortunately, you do a little bit when it comes to crypto as well.
All right.
But the point is that you can take your fiat money, whether it be pounds, dollars, yen, whatever it might be, and you can go to a cryptocurrency exchange and you can buy Bitcoin. And it's no harder than setting up an online bank account or a broking account with an online broker.
Okay, so there are reputable exchanges where I can transfer money and get into Bitcoin or whatever else I choose.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. If you can install an app on your phone, if you can, if you know how to use an internet banking account, then I don't believe you have any problem with getting a crypto account as well.
Okay, listen, this is just a start, guys. And by the way, this is going to be a first in a series of chats that Sam and I are going to have about this very, very important subject. And what we want to do here on Fortune and Freedom is to open the door for you to this world that exists so that you can, in time, fully understand it. Let's get straight to reader questions. ST says, I've read your articles published in the last couple of days about Bitcoin. I've now got a better understanding. But is it just a vehicle for paying for things anonymously, or is it investable, or both? Sorry if I sound a bit stupid. No, don't worry. Please, it's much better to say you don't understand than to pretend to yourself that you do. So I think we've kind of covered that in a sense. But let's talk about the anonymity of this, because what critics will say is that crypto is a means for drug lords to launder money, for illegal payments to take place. If I buy some, no one knows it's me, do they? Or do they?
Not really. There's the anonymity thing around Bitcoin isn't quite what people expect. So when you have Bitcoin, it exists on a Bitcoin wallet, and that wallet has a public address that anyone can see. Okay. It's a mixture of letters and numbers. It's basically BTC123. It's nothing to tie you to it specifically. However, that address, every transaction that's ever flowed into it, out of it, anything to do with it, is all recorded on Bitcoin's blockchain. Mm-hmm. So that is it's effectively like the old accounting ledgers where you'd write in every transaction, and every single transaction that's ever existed on the Bitcoin network exists on Bitcoin's blockchain that anyone can see. Now, if somebody has the ability to tie you to a specific Bitcoin wallet, then they can see all transactions you've ever made from that Bitcoin wallet and trace it back. So it's anonymous to a point, but then if you are linked or identified with a wallet, then it's actually one of the most transparent networks that we've ever seen. And so while people say that drug lords and money laundering can take place in it, actually if used properly, it can eliminate black markets.
Interesting. Let's keep going. I understand why some people like the anonymity that Bitcoin offered. Yeah, okay. Well, we kind of covered that. But G goes on to say that it doesn't offer the stability of a currency due to its wild fluctuations. So let's just think about this. Bitcoin, Ethereum, these have had massive up and down moves, haven't they?
Yeah, so when you look at these and you convert them to fiat money, then yes, the volatility is wild. That is, there's an issue with that because, or at least I have an issue with that. And I think that when you look at the bigger revolution underway here, is that we will actually start to decouple from fiat money. Because if you're always looking at the price of Bitcoin in pounds or in dollars, you're only ever going to be tied to that system. So it's, if it goes up to $100,000 and people are like, oh, it's $100,000 I'm getting out, then the legacy is stuck with the traditional financial system. The very core being of why Bitcoin exists is the opposite. It's the alternative to the financial system that we have. That's why it was created.
Yes, and that's why central banks and governments are terrified of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have every right to be terrified because there's no central authority over the control of it. The network, and the bigger the network gets and the more people that become part of the network, the more distributed it becomes, the more powerful it becomes. And I think that's the core message that people need to understand.
And one or two questions very much in line with that. Surely those in power simply won't watch as wealth and control slips from their grasp. Do you agree? Well, I certainly agree that something very big is going on here that central banks, etc., are very worried about. What steps would the government take in seeking to destroy crypto? What are the early warning signs to look out for?
Yeah, so this isn't the first question I've had around this,
no, I'm
funnily
sure.
enough. Governments have already tried to ban Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies before. China has flip-flopped on it several times already. I know Russia's come in and out of it. And regulators and authorities in the US are looking to find out a way to control it. Same here in the UK. All over the world. It's reached a tipping point, particularly with Bitcoin, where I don't believe they can. Well, they can't shut it down.
It's too big.
That's important to understand. They can't shut this down.
Is it simply too big?
It's too big, and it's too difficult for them to take control and stop the network because it's decentralized and distributed. They don't have that capacity. They'd have a better chance of shutting down the internet. And if they're doing that, then we've got bigger problems with Bitcoin.
That's
then we're all up that creek.
They might start regulating the internet. That's what worries me in terms of free speech. But
so while they can't shut it down, I think what we're going to see, and we're already starting to see this in places like Switzerland, is where they're going to take advantage of what it has to offer. So there's economic benefit in the wider crypto ecosystem as it grows and as it builds out. We're already seeing companies that employ people, that pay people in both crypto and in fiat money, that they're carrying over $1 billion valuations.
Did I see the other day that PayPal will start to accept?
Well, yeah, and then so PayPal's now on board and they're accepting cryptocurrency for their users. So
These
we're
are
talking
big changes that are happening, aren't they?
These are huge. A few years ago, PayPal were actively freezing accounts of people that were involved in cryptocurrency, and now they're saying, well, 300 million of our users are going to have access to it, and over 21 million merchants can now use it for payments. So, they're not the only ones. Square, another big payments provider in the US, again, very active in the Bitcoin space as well. So it's got to a point where corporations, big, powerful corporations are getting involved, and smaller regions are actually saying, you know what, we want to take advantage of this. So it's almost like a competition thing.
One way, of course, the governments could take advantage is by taxing people on profits.
Absolutely.
So I get asked here, can you explain how HMRC legally define and view crypto?
Yeah, so first off, you should absolutely see a registered tax professional for any of this because HMRC treat the sale of cryptocurrency assets as a taxable event. So if you bought Bitcoin at 100 and you sold it at 1,000, they're gonna hit you with capital gains.
Capital gains tax.
Obviously, there are things around that, your annual limits and all that. That's why people need to see a registered tax professional because they should be up to scratch with all this. If they're not, get a new tax professional. So that is absolutely something, and it varies from country to country.
But basically, if you make money on it, you are liable to pay capital gains.
Yep.
Fine, as you would with stocks or whatever it may be. Good. Okay, that was important that we did that. Lots more questions on anonymity. We've dealt with that. When you buy Bitcoin, who gets the money?
That's a good one. I get that a lot because people think it's like
I
there's
know,
some corporation,
I
the
know.
Bitcoin corporation that receives it. This comes back to the idea of it being a big distributed network with a lot of people, a peer-to-peer network. And so with that, when you buy Bitcoin, you're actually buying it from somebody that's willing to sell it to you. So it's not just created out of thin air for you that instant. It exists already within the Bitcoin network. So you're just buying it from another peer, whether that peer is an individual like you or me, or whether it's a corporation like one of the exchanges, or whether it's a miner who's gone out and contributing to the network itself.
Okay, let's get a little bit more technical for one or two of you who are further down the road with this. I am clear, fairly, about how Bitcoin can be stored in a wallet, and I've just bought a hardware wallet to remove counterparty risk. However, I'm not quite clear how the blockchain handles fractions of a Bitcoin. Does the blockchain deal with fractions? So here's the point, isn't it? That, one Bitcoin at the moment is going to cost you $18,000
or something like that.
But if you want to invest $5,000, you can.
Absolutely.
By getting into fractions of it. So, so somebody, clearly, this person here is on the verge of having a go, But, what do they have to do in terms of their wallet, and how do fractions work?
Yeah, so we all know what a pound is, and we all know that pennies make up the pound, like cents make up a dollar. When you talk about Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the overall network, but the smallest denomination of a Bitcoin is actually called a Satoshi. And so if one Bitcoin is one, then one Satoshi is I'm just going to get the zeros right. It's 0.000000001.
So it's quite cheap.
So it's really cheap, yeah. And that's the point, is a lot of people don't understand that, right? They think that they need $18,000 to buy a Bitcoin. If you had 50 quid and you wanted to get some fractions of a Bitcoin, you can absolutely do that.
Okay, that is very, very interesting. And this other question, where are the safe places to keep your Bitcoin wallet? Because I have heard about theft.
Yeah.
And this is obviously something that's scaring people from coming into this.
Yeah. Look, it's a barrier for a lot of people, because one of the things about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is that you are your own bank. So there's a power shift from centralized institutions like banks and financial institutions to the individual. So you do take on an element of responsibility for that. So if you've got a small hardware device that stores your Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, the security of that exists with you. So whether that be storing it in a safe at home or in a vault somewhere that's nice and secure, for some people they're comfortable with a box under the bed. That level of security always exists with the individual. So what's happening in the space is you still have those options, but we're finding more institutions coming on board, custody providers that are providing a little bit more security, and also there's insurance behind that, so that there's an element of protection in that.
Okay. Look, we are not going to answer all of your questions here today, because the truth is, we'd be here for 3 or 4 hours, and you'd all get really bored and switch it off. I hope by what we've written this week, I hope with this chat with Sam Volkering, we've given you a lot more idea, whether you're a complete newbie or whether you're somebody on the verge of investing money in this. But I want to finish just with some big picture stuff, Sam. You call this book Crypto Revolution. You believe that it is a revolution, and the more I'm beginning to understand it, the more I believe you're right. You talk about Bitcoin, which already is at this number of 18,000. The previous high was about 20,000.
Just under, yeah.
So it kind of went to 20,000, went back down to about 5 or?
Yeah, it's been 5, 4, 3 in between that.
So we could be on the verge of breaking the all-time highs. And if we are, you're going to be seeing a lot more, about these. But you also, in particular, in this book, your tip for the top, and this was published a couple of years back, your tip for the top here is Ethereum, isn't it?
Yeah, mainly because they're very different things. And people need to understand that Bitcoin and Ethereum are very different beasts.
Yeah.
But what I see with Ethereum is this potential to build out a network of information and data. A lot of people probably don't appreciate the real power and value of the data and information that they create and that should belong to them. And what I see Ethereum allowing is a network that allows layers on top of that to have greater control and power over our own information and data, which for a very long time we've just willingly given away. I think that's going to be one of the key points of the next decade and beyond.
Fascinating. Well, I hope you found that interesting. I certainly have. And as I say, this is not a one-off. This is the beginning of a series where we're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about all forms of crypto, update you on ways to buy it, ways to store it, ways for it to be safe. I promise you, we're going to do a lot more on crypto. I've been a bit late to this, but I think most of us, in a way, have been a bit late to this. But I'm beginning to understand that in terms of our future, this stuff is really important. If you'd like a copy of Sam's book, we'll be in touch very soon.